Portugal internet?
Should I try it?
Or do you want me, maybe I move? No, I'll change it.
Hello, everyone.
I have gotten off mine. I'm switching over now.
Okay, so had something I wanted to share today, and I hope that this internet connection... Oh, thank you, Nick. Nick, so nice to see you, my friend. I'm feeling much, much better. So nice to see you. I have a broken rib, but it's definitely doing better. Aloha, Ruti. Thank you. Thank you for stopping by, Nick. Nico, everyone, is a friend of mine from Kick, from an app called Kick, where Nick and I both live stream. And he is very... Oh, and Pajwa is another friend from Kick. Hi, Pajwa. Nice to see you here, my friend. I'm getting much better. How nice. Nice to extend the family. Okay. Hi, Sabin Jose 1994. Hello. Oh, good. I'm glad you hear me now. So what I want to speak about today is acquiring a habit of inner freedom. I happen to be in Portugal at the moment, and I am, and have been for some time, learning to speak Portuguese. And I encountered a very interesting idea there that I think extends to, our inner development. So the idea is that modern theories of language acquisition don't like to think about acquiring language in terms of learning. Of course, we learn when we learn a new language, but acquiring a new language is more than just learning. It's more than just memorizing what words mean what. And I can feel that as I go through my own journey of acquiring the language of Portuguese, which is, you can, of course, translate in your head. Obrigado means thank you. Adeus means goodbye. And so when you speak, you can do it that way. You can think, I'm going to say goodbye. The word for goodbye is adeus, and then say adeus. But fluency, that moment where the words in Portuguese just naturally come out of your mouth in response to circumstance. That's more than just learned. That's attained or acquired. And it needs to be maintained with practice. I used to speak Portuguese many years ago, but then I didn't speak it for a long time. And so I lost it. You lose language. It's not just that you forget, but that the habit of speaking in that tongue goes. And I think that's a really good metaphor when we're speaking about inner freedom. Because inner freedom isn't something you can just learn about. It's a habit that we need to acquire. I can tell you that at the deepest place inside us, we are always free, right? We're always free to choose, even if it doesn't feel like we're free to choose. We are. We're always free to choose how we are going to relate to every circumstance. It doesn't make the circumstances good, but we always have a capacity to choose, where there's always a freedom to choose. And also, we're always free to be okay with what is. We're always free to be content, even with circumstances that are painful, or that we don't like, or that are unjust. We can accept that that's the way it is. Even if we want to change them, we can accept that we want to change them. I can tell you that from one point of view, nothing is ever wrong. Even things we don't like, even things that are hurtful, even things that are unjust, they just are what they are. Wrong, when we say something's wrong, what we're saying is it should not be this way. But should not be that way, why? Things are just the way they are. I may want them to be different, but that doesn't make them wrong. They are the way they are because of all kinds of reasons. They are probably a natural outcome of all kinds of things that happen. I can also explain that it's not helpful to see things as wrong. It's much better to just deal with what is. If there's a situation you don't like, or a circumstance in the world that you want to change, seeing it as wrong and getting emotionally caught up in the feelings of wrongness don't generally help. People who are the most effective change agents are usually the ones who accept this is the way it is, and they don't like it, and they want it to be different, and they just dig in and do what they can to change it. I can also share with you my belief that if you can be non-reactive to your mind, you will live a better life. Most of us are very reactive to our minds, which means, this thought comes and we react. Snap, snap, snap. Most of us are snapping our way through life, reacting to so many things that occur. Often in ways that afterwards we think, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. Thank you all, everyone who's joining. Now, imagine two people. I'm sure you know someone like this, someone who's very highly reactive. Every time something happens that they don't like, they snap to anger, they snap to judgment, they snap to some kind of reaction. And then we also know, and that's probably us some days. And we also know people who, they tend to be cool. Things happen, and they don't tend to react. They don't tend to jump. They don't tend to have immediate strong responses. They tend to stay clear, even when things are challenging. It's probably us some days also. So imagine a person who's highly reactive, reacts to everything. Everything makes them jump, acting quickly before they've really thought about it. And then imagine the other person who doesn't jump, who tends to have a considered response to everything. Imagine those two people living for 10 years that way. I think most of us would agree that the person who was non-reactive is probably going to have a better life. They're probably going to make more consistently positive choices that build a better life. So the point is, there's these and many other things we can learn about. We can understand these things. But that doesn't mean that we are non-reactive ourselves, especially when things are difficult. what I'm calling non-reactivity is essentially the same thing as inner freedom. And inner freedom isn't something that you learn about, or you can learn about it, but I would say learning about it doesn't necessarily mean that you've acquired the habit of being free. You have to work at acquiring that habit. And one of the ways you can do that is through the practice of meditation. That's certainly the way that I teach. So the meditation that I teach is all about acquiring and strengthening the habit of being free. Now, of course, meditation occurs in the quiet of our own mind, which keeps things simple. The practice of meditation is the practice of just simply being content with the way things are, no matter how they are. That means no matter what you're experiencing, no matter how positive it is, how joyful it is, how exciting it is, how wonderful it is, or how boring it is, how frustrating it is, how painful it is, that whatever you're experiencing during your meditation, you're perfectly okay with that. You're perfectly accepting of that. You're free from needing anything to be different than the way it is. And the whole point of meditation is to develop a habit of being free from needing anything to be different. As long as you need something external to be different before you can be okay, you've got a lot of work to do. And we've all learned by now that external circumstances don't tend to stay the way we want them. But if you can be okay no matter what your experience is, then you're free. That doesn't mean you won't be working to make things better and to improve things, and etc. But you won't need to. You'll be standing on the ground of being okay the way things are. And that's a much more powerful ground than standing on the ground of not being okay, of needing something to change. So meditation helps us acquire the habit of inner freedom by practicing being free. You just sit and practice being free. Free from the need for anything to be different than it is. You just practice being content with the way things are, no matter how they are. So what I want to do is invite you. Hello, Rosanna. Nice to see you. Invite you to meditate with me, to sit and just practice being content with the way things are. Art by Tigress, hello. Simply practice being content with the way things are. Radical acceptance of everything and anything. Yes, you could say indifference. You could say detachment. Acceptance. Equanimity. Some of those words have a more negative connotation than others, but they're all basically meaning a certain kind of okay with the way things are. And as far as I have come to understand, that kind of foundational okay with the way things are, that's unbroken, that never changes. Grateful's a great word. That is the foundation of a powerful, open, creative human life. So let's just sit together for a few minutes in radical acceptance and perfect contentment. Just allowing everything to be exactly as it is and being perfectly okay with all. if when you're meditating, you don't want anything, if you're truly perfectly okay with the way things are, no matter how they are, then there's no reason not to relax. Relaxing becomes second nature. Most of the time in our culture, we think of relaxing as something we have to do, something that's even difficult. But relaxing is what happens when you don't do something else. So if in your meditation, you're not trying to create, oh, beautiful Rosanna, you're not trying to create any particular experience, if you're happy with everything, if you're grateful for everything, then there's nothing to do. And if there's nothing to do, relaxation happens. And so as we're sitting, just let yourself relax. Don't relax as a verb. Just don't do anything else and let relaxation happen. As soon as we are content with whatever is, there's no more reason to do anything. And when there's no reason to do anything, relaxation happens. So just allow yourself to relax. And the more relaxed you are, the better you feel. The more open you feel. Okay. Now there's one more thing I want to share, because the path to awakening is a 2-step process. The first step is acquiring the habit of inner freedom. Using this kind of meditation practice where you are content with what is, and a whole host of other practices you could use to allow you to develop a habit of being non-reactive, to being okay with the way things are, a habit of inner freedom. And that is a very powerful thing. To the extent that we have developed a habit of inner freedom, we really have become a different kind of human being. We are a very unusual human being. And we may or may not choose to continue on the path further than that. But if we do, the next part of the path involves discovering the part of ourselves that has always been free, is free now, and could never be anything but free. And that's not something you can do. That's not something you can acquire. That's not something you can practice. All we can do on the spiritual path is let go and surrender and allow ourselves to become more and more rooted in the habit of being content with the way things are. And as we rest in that depth of inner peace, we may be graced with an insight about our true nature. We may experience an awakening to the fact that underneath all of our ideas about what we like and what we don't like and what's wrong and what's not and what's right and what works and what doesn't work, underneath all of those ideas and all of the emotions connected to those ideas, everything's fine and always has been. Everything is just what it is. It's not good or bad. It just is what it is. As the great Sufi poet Rumi said, it's beyond ideas of right doing and wrong doing. It's beyond duality, beyond polarity, beyond right and wrong, beyond this and that. There just is what is. And somewhere, before all of your ideas about everything, you are just a pure awareness that sees what is. Just like a spotless mirror, reflecting exactly what's there and nothing about it. And in that place, when you inhabit that place in yourself, when you have the beautiful grace of falling into and discovering that place in yourself, you realize that in that place, you have always been okay, and you always will be okay, and always are okay under all circumstances. So in the Hindu tradition, the first part of this journey, the acquiring the habit of inner freedom, is spoken about as an attainment because it involves something that you have to do. The second half, which is the discovery of this deeper part of yourself, is a realization. It's a realization that happens. It's not something you do. So now if anyone has any thoughts or comments, I would invite you to type them in here. If you have a question, I would be happy to answer or try. I generally don't let people in my box unless I know them already. And some of you I may know, but I may not recognize your Instagram name. So if you do. Yes, I would totally agree with that. This is Jolo Fu. Possibilities flourish in a state of relaxed contentment. I utterly agree with that, my friend. You know, there's a very, very close relationship between inner freedom, spiritual freedom, and deep creativity. That's why in the work that I do, I like to speak about the artistry of possibility. That the freedom, the inner freedom that we are acquiring is the ground for a profound creativity in which we gain access to new possibilities that we can bring to life. And I think that's exactly what you're speaking to there. Absolutely, Pajwa. We run into so much trouble as human beings when our emotions are in control of us. You know, emotions aren't bad. They're not bad. They often are containing very good and important information. But reactivity tends not to be good. Is the way we perceive things the way things actually are? No. Well, that's a very interesting question. It's a bit of a complicated question. From our point of view, yes, the way we perceive things is the way they are. So here's why I'm hesitating with this answer, because in spite of the fact that I talk about the way things are, I don't know if there is a one way that things are, because reality is perceived. So I don't generally like to talk about in terms of are we perceiving things accurately. What I like to talk about is the way that we're perceiving things beneficial. Is it helpful? Is it healthy? Is it functional? Is it helping us? Is it helping other people? You know, if it's right or not right compared to what? You know, it gets very complicated. But are we happy with the way we're perceiving things? Are we happy with our life? Are we happy with the way we are responding to other people? Are we happy with the way the world is reflecting ourselves back to ourselves? Yes, by Tiger. So our perception is our reality. And our perception may or may not be one that we want to stick with. You know, the great thing that we can do is the great creativity. One of the great creativities that we have is the creativity to change our perception of reality. And Ruth says, fascinating that as long as I have been on this wonderful path to join you and refresh, my willingness to be free is a necessity. Absolutely, Ruti. You know, that foundation of inner freedom and the necessity to practice that. To keep, like a language, right? Like I was saying about a language. Absolutely. Like a language, you know, you can't just learn it once and then forget about it, and 20 years later go, oh, I think I'll speak that language now. It's not there anymore. You lost it. So in the same way, that inner freedom is something that needs to constantly be engaged with. That's what it is. Engaged with. I don't even want to say practiced. I want to say engaged with. You have to be engaged with freedom all the time, because that's what keeps it alive in you. Absolutely. Well, the other thing that I love to think about in relationship to inner freedom is that it's, because I tend to like language of divinity. Not everybody does. And I get why. I get that there's good reasons to not like that language, but I like that language sometimes. And one of the ways that I like to use it is to say that this practice, this engagement with inner freedom, this stance of being content with exactly the way things are, all the time, always, is the most beautiful form of worship. It's a beautiful practice of gratitude, because it's what it says is, I'm happy with what with everything you're giving me. I'm happy. I'm content. I'm in awe of life. And I'm demonstrating my perfect faith in the process of life by relaxing. Relaxing is a profoundly high form of worship, of honoring life, because it's a way of saying, I trust this process. I trust the goodness behind the process of life, and I trust it so much that I'm willing to remain forever relaxed, undefended, unguarded, vulnerable, open, receptive. Those are the highest forms of worship. That's the way that we express to life that we believe in her goodness, that we have no doubts. So let's just spend a few minutes together simply sitting in reverence for the beautiful gift of life. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for joining today. And Cannabis, I see that you are on. Thank you so much for being here. It's been a long time, my friend. I need to come visit you. But mostly thank everyone, as always, for spending time with me. Art by Tigress, it's a joy to have you and everyone else who's here. I look forward to being with you every week. So I'll see you again next week. I send you all my love, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.